All right, here we go. Well, I want to thank you for joining me. My name is Shannon. I'm the founder of Marketplace Seller Courses, and we've got our Facebook Live webinar today. Thank you for everybody who's able to join us now or after the fact. I have with me Ken Greenlee. He is the owner of Upgraded Images, and he specializes in Amazon product photography. Over a dozen years experience doing that with some really incredible results. So a couple of housekeeping tips real quick. First of all, if you're not able to make the whole webinar, we will record it. It will be live on Facebook and will remain as a video on Facebook, but we'll also add it to the website. We'll send a recap follow-up with some links and everything, all the information that you need in a follow-up email. So don't feel like if you're unable to stay for the whole time, you're going to miss out. We'll make sure that you get all that information. So Ken, thank you so much for joining me, and I'm really excited to have you here today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's go ahead and dive right in. One of the things I love about Ken, when we first met, he told me a story that when you were doing e-commerce, you at one point cleared out the furniture in your living room and dining room, I think, and put it on the lawn and covered it with tarps and turned it into a distribution center. Tell me a little bit about that, because it's such a fascinating story and it'll play into where we're going today.
Yeah, absolutely. In late 1999, started a company called bathandbody.com selling personal care products, shower gels, gift baskets. Launched it about a couple of months before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving hit. I was out of town at my mom's house watching orders come in, at first with excitement, then with sheer panic. So we cut Thanksgiving short, raced back down to San Diego where I lived at the time, got friends and neighbors, cleared literally, like you said, all of the furniture in the house except for the bedroom into the backyard, covered it with tarps, and just had family and friends as a makeshift distribution center for demand that we just weren't expecting.
That's well, and that's how Amazon started. If only you'd have picked books instead of Bath and Body.
Right.
Now, the reason I found you, and I think we met about 5 or 6 years ago, was because I encountered the same problem you did, and you were looking for a solution, and because you couldn't find the solution, you created it. Talk about why you created Upgraded Images, because that's so important for this whole conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I ended up selling bathandbody.com. While I owned it, I was contacted a few times by potential photographers to assist with the taking of the photos of the products for the e-commerce site. After speaking with pretty much every single person who called, I felt just weird after the phone call. It felt like they were just really trying to get a sense for what my budget was so that their invoice could be exactly that much or a little more. Mm-hmm. Pricing was so hidden. The process was also hidden, and it just became very clear that there was an opportunity to come in back in the early 2000s to launch something with absolutely transparent pricing, regardless of the difficulty of the product, and just put it all up there with the process and make it as easy as possible, because a lot of people are doing this for the first time and they don't need the intimidation. So that was the goal.
Yeah, it is really confusing, and so the reason I found you was because I was in LA at the time working for a company that was selling iPhone cables, really unique, innovative product. And I'd contacted like a buddy of mine, and his brother was a photographer, and he's like kind of jerry-rigger kind of thing. And he's like, I don't really feel comfortable doing that. And all the sites I found, it was call for pricing, fill out this form for pricing. Like nobody had pricing. And a lot of times people wouldn't get back to you. And all of a sudden I found Upgraded Images in Pasadena, which was only a few miles away from where I was at the time. And it was like, there was the pricing right there on the page, and I could know exactly how much it was going to cost per photos. There was like 6 variations of the product. We wanted all the variations to look the same. We wanted a bundle pack, photo. And so for me, it was like, oh my gosh, this huge breath of fresh air, that finally there's a solution that you don't have to worry about trying to schedule this whole shoot, of trying to schedule this whole shoot or, figure out the photography side of things. So that's really the start of it. Let's talk about Amazon product photography, and I want to start with, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see a lot of sellers make with their primary product photography on Amazon?
Well, as you know, there are A couple of things to talk about here, really. First of all, Amazon does have a lot of specifications for what they will allow and what they won't allow. You will see a lot of samples up there where the photos, in fact, don't meet those specifications. And so we get a lot of phone calls from people saying, well, I hear I need a pure white background, or we'll tell people they need a pure white background, and they say, well, I see all the time that people don't do it, and so everyone thinks that that's okay.
Yeah.
We know the specifications as well as the Amazon people in their design departments. So the problems that we run into, that we see, are twofold. First of all, is people not meeting those specifications and giving themselves kind of this vulnerability to having their images yanked by Amazon.
Right.
It doesn't happen terribly frequently because of the sheer number of images. The second thing is, of course, just images that don't look awesome. And you get that from people just using natural household lighting. They'll have a fluorescent light up on one side, light coming through the window on the other side. They don't really fully get that even though all light kind of looks white, it's in fact not. There's color temperature, your incandescent light. So you'll have a product. So we see this all the time. A product is blue on one side and yellow on the other side, when in fact it's a uniform color.
Right. And it's not a poster for a Bourne Identity movie where they want it to look like that.
Exactly, right. Yeah, lighting is a huge issue, removing all the backgrounds. But primarily what we really excel at is, my background is really marketing, and I've instilled this on all the photographers who are part of our team now. We look at each product with an eye for, and we ask ourselves, what does the client really need to see about this? What is this, what are the unique selling points about this item, and how do we really highlight those in the photos?
And that really takes it beyond, I just want to take a picture of the product. Because I think that's what a lot of people start with, is like, we just need a picture of the product and don't think about all those in-depth things that are really going to actually sell the product, because it's not just information. It's going beyond that and taking it to a marketing level. Exactly. So, I mean, to give an example of this, I think this goes back to the first example with cables. We had sent you the cables, you had them, you did the first shoot. And you said there was, I think, the black tips. There's sort of a black plastic coating. And you said, do you want us to add a little highlight to that, a little white glint and sort of shimmer off of it? Because that's what a lot of the big companies do. And there's a selling point to that. I never would have considered it was going to be added in post. Talk about something as minute as that and what that can do for a product to change a customer's perception.
Okay, now you're asking me to go into a database of just about every.
Just the 30-second version.
The 30-second version. Well, oh my goodness, that's a really tough one. Again, my mind gets flooded with just little. We have now photographed hundreds of thousands of paid photos here. So examples are, I think, a lot of what we're able to do that people can't do on their own too is the way we stage products on a pure white background and suspend them in such a way that they truly look like they are floating. And we hide every little prop that holds them exactly into place. So if something screws into something, you kind of, we can kind of break it apart, show it, so it's, not touching anything, just floating on a pure white background, just like pre-final assembly stage. That's something that we do quite commonly. That's people really just aren't able to stage on their own.
Let's talk about the white background real quick. So here's the Amazon specifications. The longest side has to be at least 1,000 pixels, and the shortest side has to be at least 500. But typically, you want at least 1,000. Now, your initial package starts at 1,200 by 1,200. We'll get into the packages a little later, but that provides a really good resolution. It also provides a really good zoom, because as a customer hovers their mouse over that photo, it's actually going to zoom in. And so we always let people know, based on the detail of your product, you might actually want to use a different resolution. Some products you don't need as much detail and you can stick with 1,200. Sometimes maybe there's a lot of intricacy in the product that you really want people to see. So you actually want to go with a much bigger size. And that's actually really important to know as you're prepping the product photography. But the pure white background is important. It doesn't mean photograph the product on a white sheet and use Photoshop a little bit. Talk about how you get that pure white background, because it really is the cleanest outline of the product and puts it on that according to Amazon specs.
Well, it's a couple of things that we do. Of course, we use very bright lighting and we shoot on white seamless background paper. So we've got a white-ish background to begin with. Now, obviously, we can't pump up the lighting so high that the background just blows out and turns to pure white in the camera. If we do that, then highlights of the product itself are actually going to also blow out. Certainly, we shoot a lot of things that are white, a lot of things that are highly reflective. So we can't just set our exposure and just blow out the background. So there is a lot of post-production that goes into that as well, kind of really hand tracing out the product and then just knocking out the background digitally to pure white.
Yeah, and one of the things, the side benefits that I love about that is a lot of photos, when you get them back, if you do a commercial photo shoot, for example, the image size is, the megabytes per image is usually just exorbitant, and it takes up tons of space on, computer if you're having to transfer files to Dropbox and stuff. I was looking at some of the images that we got from you. Again, 1200 by 1200 pixels, perfect resolution, 250 kilobytes. I mean, it's like nothing. So there's a huge benefit to actually photographing at that resolution and then removing all this extraneous background, which also equates to removing data from the photo to make it a smaller file size without decreasing the resolution at all.
Exactly right. JPEG does optimize the images, and it has a very easy time grabbing huge sections of images. And again, the products that you sent most recently, like the Wisp or in the cables, there's a tremendous amount of white space in there on very, very skinny products, and that can be optimized like crazy with JPEGs.
Yeah. So let's talk about the three, scenarios that most, whether it's a brand, manufacturer, it could be an inventor, it could be even a reseller who's putting together a bundle. You can do it yourself. You can go the full studio route and hire a full studio production, or they can use a company like Upgraded Images. Let's just kind of walk through each of those, because there's pros and cons to each. In my personal opinion, the pros for using a company like Upgraded Images far outweighs everything else. But let's talk about the individual shoot in terms of quality, time, investment, what you're going to get out of it, and what that final photo is typically going to look like.
Okay, sure. Well, option one, doing it yourself. Obviously, people are attracted to that one because once you own the equipment, once you have the knowledge to actually do the shoots, at that point, once you've made that initial expenditure, then essentially your images only cost you your time. And if you can get up to speed, if you have some good camera knowledge, that could be an okay. It could certainly work for some people who have time available, who have the finances to go out and purchase decent equipment, including decent lighting. You would be amazed how many people come in and bring us their product and say, by the way, would you like to buy some lighting? We tried it ourselves. It's a pain. We can't do it. And it is really surprising how many people we shoot for who have given it a shot on their own.
And it can be pretty expensive, I imagine, even just buying some of the cameras and lighting. Even if you have some of that, there's still a pretty significant financial investment. Plus, you still have to do it every time, and you got to cut out the backgrounds. And so it's a lot of manual process that goes into that.
Right, and certainly there is software. In fact, I think Amazon integrates something now that really helps you knock out the background to white, but it does it the dirty way. Again, it kind of bumps up those white areas, which can grab the shines and grab the white areas of your product and blow those out to complete white as well. So yeah, that's correct.
Now let's talk about the second option, which is studio. I think sometimes people have the mindset that if I spend more, I'm going to get more. So we're a big brand, we've got, $1 million marketing budgets and stuff. We want a full studio, photo shoot that's going to cost us 10 grand because we're going to get 10 grand out of it. But let's break that down and talk about, again, the expense and the value. and what you're going to get versus, again, what you could get at some, a company like Upgrade Images?
I don't have a lot of familiarity with some of the organizations that do that scale of imagery. We don't really speak with them or speak too much with clients about their experiences about them. But essentially what they are doing is what we do here every day. We're just insanely efficient at it. We have studio booths. You can see just a little portion of our studio here. It's a 4,500 square foot studio. We've got booths permanently set up for different types of products, large products, tabletop products that kind of need to be a little suspended. So we've got that stuff ready to go all the time, and we're here all the time.
Right.
I've asked everyone to come in a little late so I can finish this, but so we're already ready already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a huge part of really what allows us to have our pricing just tremendously lower from some of these companies that will first consult with you, then set up specifically for your shoot, probably with or without you present. We consult. We have just a tremendous amount of experience shooting every single type of product there is, so we can shave that time and just jump in and start.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about the process. One of the things that I love is, again, if you were to schedule, say, a huge photo shoot, and then you get all the images and post back, a few days or a week later, and you realize you're missing some, or there was a slightly different angle you want to get, you got to go back to square one and you got to reschedule everything. And with Upgrade Images, the process is so simple. So let's walk people through the process. If I've got a product that I want to photograph, or 10 or 15 different variations or a handful of different products, let's go ahead and just walk them through the process of how we get that started, what that looks like, and then I've got some tips as well for that from my own experience with using you guys.
Okay, certainly. Well, the first process is to get your products to us. And if clients are local, they'll bring them. If they're across the country, across the world, we have a lot of international clients, and they'll ship them to us. We have an order form where they can, in fact, put their instructions. But you can also supplement that with a phone call. We're always welcome to speak with the clients. What we tell people about with regards to what level of instruction they should provide, we say we have some clients who take camera phone shots and shoot little samples of every angle, send those to us. Then we have clients who say, here's my stuff, go for it.
Yeah.
Everything in between, and we're comfortable with that entire spectrum.
Right, because you've done it before, no product's going to be completely new for you. You understand the basics of what's going to look best. I want to read this real quick from your bio. The whole idea is you understand the importance of communicating value to the customer, and you use that knowledge to ensure that every photograph taken in Upgraded Images highlights the most important aspects of the product while representing it accurately and attractively. And I love that because it really does a good job of summing up. It's not just about shooting a product. It's about understanding the best way. And I think we even went through this with a handful of companies where we thought a certain way would look good, and then we came back several months later and go, okay, that's really not actually going to be the best option. Let's reshoot it this way. And it was just a matter of resending the products back, and letting you know what we wanted. So I would say the two pieces of advice that I think I found are really helpful. One is, if you're an Amazon seller, go on to Amazon and look at other bestseller products in your category, or maybe somewhere in the top 5. Bestseller, Amazon choice products, that sort of thing. It doesn't mean that you're going to replicate that, but use it for inspiration. So if you have no idea where to start, that could be a really good way to look at it. And I think that would have saved us a lot of time if we'd done that, because, again, we were paying for shots that we wound up not even using at all, just because we hadn't thought it through. And then the second thing that I always do is, if we know there's a shot that we really want, I set that shot up exactly how I want, in an office, living room, kitchen, wherever we kind of want to show it, set up with exactly the props and exactly the angle, shoot it on my phone, add that to the email, and then you know exactly what we're going for, and there doesn't have to be a lot of back and forth or miscommunications. It's a very efficient way to say, these are the 3 shots I want for this product. You bang them out, and then we get those back. Talk about the follow-up process once you get those shot. about about how long it takes typically, and then what's the process from there? Once you finish the initial shoot, where do we go from there?
Well, let me step back and want to say one thing about people sending sample photos and having them not quite replicate. That is something really to say a second time, because we do have a lot of clients who will show us photos and say, I want exactly this. And you should all know that we have the trained eye similar to the company that took that original shot that you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
We can usually come up with something a little bit different. I mean, if your goal really is to just look identical to your competitors, certainly that's your choice. But we are able to come up with really amazing hero shots. So now getting back, the process after we shoot everything, first of all, our mantra here is you don't pay for any images that you don't love. So after we shoot everything, we do go through some editing. We post all the images in a client directory and send an email with a link to it. So at that point, you review everything, and we invite your harshest criticism. Take a look at everything. If something missed the mark even a little, let us know. Reshoots are free. It's just part of the cost of doing business. We wouldn't do it any other way. So images you don't care for, there's certainly no obligation to purchase. Something you'd like a little bit of tweaking, just let us know. We'll reshoot it. And only then do you consider actually paying the invoice.
And it's basically going through and saying, I want, these 3 shots, this one, can you do it from a slightly different angle? And again, I think going back to your earlier point, somebody can say, hey, this is kind of what I want. And you're going to be able to say, let's take that one better and maybe offer a suggestion or an option, and maybe even do both options and suggestions so they can see that, yeah, actually that is going to be better. It actually differentiates you from your competition and so forth. But, say, okay, I want these 3 shots. This one, can you redo? And once that 4th image is redone, basically you resend that. I select the images, and then it's a really simple PayPal link from that point to basically pay for the images and then get a zip file that you can download to be able to have access to your images.
Sure. Yeah, PayPal, and we also have a merchant account as well for those who don't have PayPal.
Okay.
But yes.
So,
correct.
So just the seamless process, like I said, you can be anywhere in the world. I happen to be in California, not far from Pasadena when we first reached out. But people can literally be anywhere. And as long as they have the ability to ship the products to you and then get them back, the cost is minimal. It really is. So I want to talk a little bit about, because the handful of companies that I work with, the difference that a primary product shot makes. And so I think, for example, one of the clients that I referred to early on was a guy, Philip Maslany, who had a Maslany record clamp, on Amazon. He'd had it up for an entire year and had never had a single sale. So he was paying Seller Central fees, and he was just, trying some different marketing, just nothing. And I think the images were actually renderings, which you're not supposed to use on Amazon. Again, they had it, suppressed the listing, but it wasn't doing anything. And we sent the product into you, got some really clean shots, some different angles, above and below. And we also updated the copy, added some SEO, and then immediately it started selling. But how important is that primary image for making a sale, just in your opinion, even as a customer on Amazon?
Sure. Well, absolutely. You mentioned changing the copy as well, and that definitely had something to do with it. So it changes your ranking on the thumbnails. But when you're in the thumbnail view, the image is all you see, really. That's it. So the first thing you see, you're not reading descriptions. You're seeing a rating, of course, which is also important. But the image is the thing that really jumps out and lets you know that you've found what you're looking for. So it's incredibly important.
Well, and similarly, if you're running Amazon campaigns, which I think almost most successful sellers that I know are running Amazon campaigns, and now you have the ability to do headline ads with brand registry. All people are seeing is just that little bit. They're not even seeing the whole title. They're not seeing all the information. They're just seeing, like you said, that thumbnail of that product. If that first image doesn't grab their attention enough to get that click through, they're never going to see the product. And so, again, when you land on the detail page, I know the first thing people see is the image. You see the ratings and reviews. You see the price, and then you start to look at the content beyond that. But it typically takes customers, only a matter of seconds to decide if they even want to continue looking at this product or going through the reviews in terms of buying. And the primary product image can be a huge, swaying factor to either continue to investigate or to go back. One of the clients that I have, they said, well, we've got a lot of different products. We're just going to kind of set it up and do it ourselves. But looking at the starting cost of a photo, kind of looking at the average numbers, if, an average product is somewhere between $12 and $25, and I think for you guys, if you're just doing, say, five images, 1 to 5 images, the product cost, is it 25?
It's 25 per photo, and then if you get that 6th photo, it drops down to 21. So in fact, if you do the math, it costs an additional $1 to get the 6th photo.
Yeah. So and most people have more than one product. You're going to get at least that much. So going down to $21. In my estimation, you only need to sell 2 or 3 more products over the course of that product's life on Amazon to pay for it. If you include in shipping, maybe 3 to 4. But I've seen people who kind of shoot their own stuff. It's in fact, I think I sent you one of their products just sort of as a courtesy. It was just swag at the point. And I think you were so embarrassed by the photography on Amazon that you shot it for free and gave us, an upgraded image, because it really made a huge difference. It wasn't ironed, it wasn't straight, it wasn't done out. So the cost to do that is so minimal, and the time investment is so minimal, because again, once you have that process, you fill out the order form. It's a PDF order form that you could download, fill in, print, put in with your package, ship it, and then get back, and everything else is done online virtually. The cost is so minimal, and it's almost a guarantee that unless you are a professional product photographer and have all the equipment set up, that you are going to sell more using a higher quality, Amazon, photography service. So in that vein, I want to jump in and talk a little bit about what are some of the products that you photograph, or I should say specialize in. And then I'm just curious, what's the smallest thing you've ever shot, the biggest thing you've ever shot, and then the weirdest thing you've ever shot, just out of morbid curiosity.
Sure. Well, we have one of our clients is a company called Amphenol RF, and they make small connectors for just little RF pieces. Some of them, how would I describe the size? Less than 2 millimeters, certainly. Okay. And of course, keep in mind, the smaller the product, the more perfect condition it has to be, because when you zoom it up to the Amazon zoom, every little blemish is going to show, and we certainly do some basic retouching to try to hide that. But right. I'd say about 2 millimeters is the smallest. We've shot carpets from overhead that were at least 20 feet in a diagonal. And then the strangest, well, see, now I don't want to offend anyone whose product it might be, could potentially be listening.
Just bizarre, just strange.
Just strange. Just strange.
Unique. Let's call it unique.
Very unique. Questionable usage.
Yeah. We could leave that one. So I know that in addition to product photography, you guys also have a specialization in clothing and apparel photography. In fact, let's give the websites for both of these, actually, because I don't think we've done that. Can you give the websites for both of them and then talk about a little bit about the clothing photography side?
Certainly. Upgraded Images is our product photography portal that is where we shoot everything except clothing. And Upgraded Images also includes clothing accessories, socks, hats. The clothing photography website, and this one's real difficult to remember, so I might want to write it down. It's clothingphotography.com.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. So that one is for actual garments, shirts, pants, dresses, jackets, etc. That one is slightly different pricing. We're in the works of a new website for that one right now, in fact. And the clothing is very different. We receive everything. You can wad everything up in a box and ship it to us. We have Jiffy upright steamers. We're steaming all day long, getting out all the wrinkles, styling everything nicely. The styling is a bit different with clothing. It's soft, it's fabric. It doesn't just hold its shape. It takes the shape that you make it hold. So we have a lot of experience styling nicely on mannequins primarily. The ghost mannequin is really the most popular way to shoot clothing right now. And by that, for those of you who aren't familiar, that's where you shoot something. There actually is a mannequin inside, but you would absolutely all trace this combination of photoshopping it out or actually just modifying the mannequin so that it's hidden by the clothing. So those are the two websites, slightly different pricing, same contacts, and it's really the same mantra behind both of them.
Yeah, one of the things I was looking at with the clothing photography is, I mean, it's to shoot like a strap, like a tank top, for example, with really thin straps, and you get this full 3D, body model of it, and it just looks like you said, like it's empty. It seems that would be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to get on your own. And again, to get that sort of level where you almost get sort of a single snapshot of a virtual 3D, a 360 view of a product. Is there any sort of best practices in terms of how many photos that most sellers get or need, for an Amazon listing? Because you guys focus, and I want to specify this, you guys focus on the product photography. You don't do lifestyle photography in terms of the backgrounds, in terms of people using it. But I'll specify that a little bit in a minute. But you don't do lifestyle photography. How many product photos is good, or does it just totally depend on the product?
It definitely does depend on the product. It's 4 or 5 solid pure white background photos. Again, depending on the product. If your product is a ball, shooting multiple angles of the ball just really doesn't make a lot of sense. You can do some zoom ins of the valve. Certainly there's room at least, pretty much always, for at least 2 or 3. But at some point, certain products, you've told the story of really what it is and what it does and what separates it from the others. So supplementing definitely with lifestyle photography is of huge benefit. It is not something we do here simply because of the amazing variety of items that we shoot here. We'd have to scout out scenes and props and everything. It's just a little bit beyond the scope of what we do. We like to stay focused.
Sure.
But on average, I'd say about 4, 5, 6 photos on a pure white background is depending on what the product is. Yeah,
and the benefit is not only can you use it on Amazon, but as a seller, if I pay to have images shot, I'm assuming I own the copyright, I own the photos, and I can then use those anywhere. I can use them on my website, if they go in magazines, if they go, in print ads, online ads. The benefit is I get to use those for anything, any use that I might, and not just on Amazon. So there's actually a ton of variety of uses that I can use for that beyond just the Amazon or e-commerce listing.
Correct. Absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the different things that we've done, and there was another product that I'll mention, RoboSnail, which is an automatic aquarium cleaner, which just blew me away the first time I saw it. Really cool product, and again, the photos on Amazon were not good. They were very low resolution. They only showed one angle of it, and again, optimizing the listing, putting the correct parentage child variations together, putting products into FBA and upgrading the images, that whole package makes a huge difference, and all of a sudden, you see sales start to come through. I think some of the unique things that we did with that is, one, we wanted to show it in a couple different angles. So I think the first time you came back, the guy goes, oh, well, it actually needs to be this way, and it was something that nobody could tell unless the inventor themselves knew exactly how it's supposed to be positioned. But we came back with a couple changes, a couple requests. You guys reshot those, and we picked them, including one thing that I think is really helpful, which is an unboxing. And so that was sort of like, because there was a lot of different components, it wasn't just, here's the product, it's here's everything you get in the box and in the product that comes with it. And it's just a really helpful photo to show everything on a real clean white background of everything that they're getting beyond that initial primary product image.
Oh, absolutely. The more you can help the customer understand exactly what they're going to receive, the better. And showing everything that's included is definitely a key part of that.
Now, we've even had you guys do a couple assembly photo shoots, which was really powerful. Again, we looked at the best sellers on Amazon and we saw what people were doing, and we realized for a product that requires some assembly, actually shooting that at each stage, putting it together is really helpful. And then we created our own graphic with text as an additional photo on that listing that basically said, here's the 4 steps that you need to assemble the product. And then you get that really clean white background for each step of the assembly. Do you guys charge extra for hand models to do that, or how does that work?
We don't charge extra for hand models. We have a lot of hands here, and we try to keep them in reasonably good condition. I think we're doing an okay job.
I hadn't thought about that, but it's a good point. Yeah. So again, if there's a used product, if there's a certain way of holding it or handling it. In one case, one of the comments that we kept getting back was, "It's so small, it's too small." And so we sent the product back. I think it cost $5 in shipping. We had to, shoot a couple different shots. We now use that as the primary and secondary photo for all of our listings because it shows the size of the product relative to somebody's hands, and nobody has come back since then and go, "Oh, it's too small." I think we had one customer that didn't see that for whatever reason, but the customer reviews changed and the negative reviews decreased because we were able to show people instead of having to describe it. We had in inches how big the product was, but people don't think in terms of inches, and so that little extra made a huge difference. So
it's very true. And we receive products, sorry to interrupt, but we receive products sometimes where we think this product is a different size than we were expecting based on the description given by the client. And so even when clients don't ask for it, sometimes we'll just throw in one with the hand just because we feel it adds value.
Yeah, so the last thing that I think is so important and valuable about the service is we had a situation, one of our clients, we'd gotten the basic package, just the Take Me Online package, 1200 by 1200. It worked for all of our e-commerce. And all of a sudden, we had a listing that was going on Bed Bath & Beyond, and they required a 3,000 or 2,500 pixel image, and we didn't have it. And we needed it in like 3 days, and it was crunch time. So we're trying to figure out how do we go back, get the products reshot, all that stuff. I contacted you, and you came back and said, "No problem. We've got the original image, and all you have to do was pay the difference," and we were able to upgrade. That was a lifesaver. Is that something that's actually available to everybody that gets their products photographed with you?
It is, in fact. We archive every photo we've ever taken in the history of the company, including the original sizes. And the reason there is a price difference is largely because for those larger sizes, we go in deeper and we edit out little blemishes that just tend to disappear when you shrink them down to the smaller size.
Okay.
So we do, in fact, have every image, including the largest size. So yeah, you're exactly right. We get that fairly often. I got picked up in a magazine. I need a larger version of this. Okay, well, give us about an hour. We'll work on the image and clean it up real nice and pay the difference, and here you go.
And the difference we're talking about is like a handful of dollars. I mean, again, if you were in that same situation and had to go back to a photo shoot where you had to reshoot everything or get a different angle, the thousands of dollars, I don't even want to add it up, but the simplicity of it, the ease of use, it's unbelievable in terms of how much sense it makes. Let's talk a little bit about your private eBay collection for people who don't pick up their products or don't pay to have them shipped back. Talk about that return aspect of, if I ship you my product, you photograph it, I'm happy with the product. What's that return process? What does that look like?
Well, the return process is we always ask people if they have a UPS or FedEx account that we can use to return the product, if they have a prepaid label that they'd like us to use, or if they'd like us to add the cost of return shipping to our UPS account, or we could do priority mail as well. So they can just add it to the invoice if they want. Obviously, there's no obligation to have your product returned. If the cost of returning is more than your actual manufacturer cost of the item itself, we can find a home for it. We have a Goodwill 2 blocks away from here. So, and we also have a house and backyard filled with items.
I can tell you, having worked with Amazon clients for, half a decade now, the cool stuff that you get as part of your agreement is like, I'm going to need some samples of that in order to test the product out. So you get to take home some real cool stuff. Ken, we're about wrapping up. I want to talk about a special offer that you've created for people who view this webinar. And that is basically, if they mention Marketplace Seller Courses, you'll do a free upgrade from 1200 to 1500 by 1500 pixels. And they can just put that in the order form or in the initial email contact and basically just request that upgrade.
That's correct. That's correct. We're also eliminating our highest price of $25 a photo for 1 to 5 photos and just dropping you straight into the 21, even if you don't have 6 photos for us to take.
That's incredible. So if you're ready to get product photography, make sure to mention Marketplace Seller Courses. Ken, for people to go ahead and reach you again, we've mentioned a couple times, and I'll put it in the notes, what is the best ways to contact Upgrade Images? What are the best ways to contact you, the company, whether it's website, phone, or email? And then what other steps, if any, do they need to take to get started?
Well, I would recommend taking a quick peek at the website first, because it really is information rich, and just like the strategy of our entire company, we like to make things simple. Any information that you're looking for should be very easy to find quickly on the website, and we are always available. To understand that you still probably have some questions or just need a little bit more information. We're always here to answer the phones and reply by email. We have a feedback form on the website. It's probably the best way, because then whoever's available can get to it immediately. But yeah, website, phone, and email, all three.
Okay. And the website again is upgradedimages.com. So upgradedimages.com. If you Google it, it'll be the first thing that pops up. Ken, thank you again so much for being on. Any last thoughts as we wrap this up in terms of product photography?
Turnaround time? I think that's a question that a lot of people have, probably one of the most asked ones. From the point that I send you my products, how long does it take to actually receive them? We generally look at about a 4 to 7 business day turnaround time.
Okay.
So
within a week and a half. So if I'm launching a new product on Amazon, I want to give it at least 3 weeks to get my products to you, go through the first round, maybe provide some feedback, ask for a couple different angles, get those redone, to make sure I've got margin and time, and as soon as I'm ready, I can make that payment and I get the zip file. It's one of my favorite things, is getting that zip file download. Always excited to get those images and see them. So anyways, Ken, thank you so much for joining and being a part of it, the webinar. Again, if you want to take advantage of that special offer, make sure to mention Marketplace Seller Courses in your order request, and they'll go ahead and drop that initial price down, as well as upgrade your image side. And again, if you want to learn more great information on optimizing your listings, you can visit us at marketplacesellercourses.com, on Facebook, Marketplace Seller Courses, or Seller Courses on Twitter. So thanks again. Ken, thanks again for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, guys.